Hello everyone, this is Vinay. Today I am going to tell you about pituitary gland and its physiological role in our body. First, I will tell you about the anatomy of the gland. The pituitary gland is situated in the base of the skull and it is placed in the sella turcica. The gland has two parts, anterior lobe and the posterior lobe, and it also has an intermediate lobe, but it is rudimentary in humans. The posterior lobe is also called as neurohypophysis, neurohypophysis, neurohypophysis because it is an extension of the hypothalamus into the posterior lobe. The neuron extending from the hypothalamus to the posterior lobe has its cell body in the hypothalamus and its nerve fiber in the posterior lobe and its nerve terminal in the posterior lobe. So the hormones which are secreted by the posterior lobe are formed in the cell body that is situated in the hypothalamus, whereas the anterior lobe, which is a derivative of Rathke's pouch, which is a part of ectoderm, uh, forms the anterior lobe of the pituitary. In the anterior lobe, the cells are arranged in the glandular pattern, so it is called as adenohypophysis. We know that adeno means glandular, hypophysis. The cells here are called as stroph cells, and these cells are called supporting cells, which provides nourishment to the stroph cells. And here is the embryological anatomy of the pituitary gland. Diencephalon and the Rathke's pouch together it fuses and forms the pituitary gland. Here you can see the posterior lobe extends from the hypothalamus and forms the neurohypophysis, and the adenohypophysis extends from the Rathke's pouch and forms the anterior lobe. Development of pituitary gland. This is sella turcica, which is the base of the skull. Now we go to the vascular supply. The pituitary gland is supplied by two arteries, superior hypophyseal artery, inferior hypophyseal artery. This is the superior hypophyseal artery. This is the inferior hypophyseal artery. This artery enters into the gland at the upper part and forms the first capillary loop, and then it extends downward the gland and forms second capillary loop, and then it exits the gland and enters systemic circulation. The inferior hypophyseal artery enters at the lower part of the gland. In the first loop, the neurons from the hypothalamus secretes their contents into the first capillary loop. The contents may be stimulatory or inhibitory. Stimulatory means thyroid releasing hormone, gonadotropin releasing hormone, corticotropic releasing hormone. growth hormone releasing hormone. Inhibitory like somatostatin, somatostatin. As they enters the first capillary loop and it passes downwards into the second capillary loop where they acts on the troph cells. These troph cells secretes their contents into the second capillary loop, which exits the thyroid gland into the systemic circulation. Its contents may be growth hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, gonadotropins like luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and adrenocorticotropic hormone. That's it. It also secretes prolactin. Anterior pituitary is under indirect control of hypothalamus. Posterior pituitary is under direct control of hypothalamus. The nerve cells here are very small, called as parvocellular cells. And the nerve cells controlling the posterior pituitary are magnocellular cells, as they have their cell body buried in the hypothalamus. Magnocellular cells. Through the axoplasmic flow, they send their contents down into the pituitary. The contents are antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. Via this capillary loop, they exit the systemic circulation, exit the pituitary gland and enter systemic circulation. And this is the vascular supply of the pituitary gland. These are the nucleus that secretes the pituitary hormone. Paraventricular nucleus. It secretes oxytocin. Supraoptic nucleus. It secretes antidiuretic hormone. Medial preoptic nucleus secretes huge quantity of gonadotropin releasing hormone. Paraventricular nucleus also secretes corticotropin releasing hormone, thyroid releasing hormone, somatostatin. Anterior pituitary cell types based on staining nature. two types: basophilic cells, basophilic and acidophilic cells. Acidophilic cells include somatotroph, which is the most abundant, constitutes around 50% of troph cells, whereas another cell that comes under acidophilic is lactotroph, which is around 10 to 30%. Basophilic cells are gonadotropins, corticotroph and thyrotroph. Controls of pituitary gland. In hypothalamus, these control hormones are created. From there, it enters the pituitary and results in the production of the endocrine hormones, which acts on their targets and producing the function. GnRH, which is a gonadotropin releasing hormone, acts on the pituitary, producing luteinizing hormone and follicular stimulating hormone. This acts on their targets gonads, testes or ovaries, causing production of the estrogen, progesterone, androgen. Its function is the reproduction. Thyroid releasing hormone. It causes production of the thyroid stimulating hormone. This thyroid stimulating hormone acts on the thyroid to produce T4 and T3, and it helps in the metabolism. It is basal metabolic rate. It maintains the basal metabolic rate. At excessive levels, thyroid releasing hormone also stimulates production of a prolactin, causes lactation. Dopamine always inhibits the prolactin, which is the inhibiting factor for the prolactin. Growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone inhibiting hormone. So growth hormone is under control of both these hormones, but mostly under the growth hormone releasing hormone. This growth hormone acts on the livers and gets converted into the insulin-like growth factor 1, insulin-like growth factor 3, which helps in the growth. And corticotropin releasing hormone acts on the anterior pituitary to produce the adrenocorticotropic hormone, which acts on the adrenal cortex. This adrenal cortex further synthesizes cortisol and androgen, which comes in handy in the stressful situation. Antidiuretic hormone or vasopressin also stimulates the production of ACTH via B3 receptors, and its main function is water balance by acting on the distal nephron. Oxytocin from the posterior pituitary acts on the uterus and breast and causes and helps in the parturition by contracting the uterus, and lactation by contracting the myoepithelial cells surrounding the lobules of the mammillary duct. Clinical point: in case of hypothyroidism, there is less T3 and T4, no negative feedback on pituitary. This causes increased production of thyroid stimulating hormone, which further stimulates prolactin production, causing hyperprolactinemia in hypothyroid individuals. And that is it about the pituitary gland. By this we can say that pituitary gland is the master regulator of endocrine system. That is it, and thank you for listening.